De Finse beveiligingsonderzoeker Mikko Hypponen doet voor het bedrijf F-Secure onderzoek naar digitale dreigingen. Afgelopen week was hij in Amsterdam en Tweakers sprak met hem over Stuxnet, Doekoe en Flame en hoe ver de overheid mag gaan in de strijd tegen cybercrime.
The computer security field keeps changing. We have new kinds of attacks coming every couple of years. The actors keep changing. Like 5 years ago, we didn't have Anonymous as a play at all. 10 years ago, we didn't have governmental attacks as a player at all. And when we look at the long term, like what's going to happen next? Well, one thing which is going to happen is mobile risks are going to get bigger and bigger. Right now, we mostly see Android-based threats, but the situation will change and we can expect real malware to start attacking iOS, iPhone, iPad devices as well. And then we have lots of headaches coming from automation gear, so PLC boxes and machines built by Siemens and Honeywell. And the problem there really isn't that we wouldn't be building secure systems now, because there's been a great improvement in security of factory automation and ICS. The problem is that these devices have a very long life cycle. So even if you have perfectly secure gear in the shops today, it's going to take 15 years before they are deployed to real factories. And during those years, we have pretty nasty nightmare scenarios that could happen through attacks against factories and automation systems.
There's a report out about a new computer virus that may be aimed at destroying a bricks and mortar facility. The virus is called Stuxnet, and according to the Financial Times, it may be aimed at Iran's controversial nuclear facility. Joining us now is Richard Falken.
So far, we've only seen one single malware ever which tries to affect the operation of automation systems, and that's the legendary Stuxnet. Stuxnet is the only case we've seen which actually modifies PLC code and actually modifies machines and machinery controlled by the PLCs. Now, the reason why we've only seen one is it's actually hard to do this. The Siemens protocol is proprietary, it's undocumented. Programming these devices is very difficult. So if we can think about like what could happen, I actually went looking for Stuxnet from public sources. It took me 3 minutes to find a copy of the Stuxnet binary. So everybody can just find it. Modifying Stuxnet is far from trivial. It isn't easy at all, but obviously it's easier to modify an existing attack than to recreate it from scratch. It took millions to develop Stuxnet originally. And it could actually be one scenario where attackers could just modify Stuxnet and redistribute new versions of it. And they might not be targeting just one physical location in the world like Stuxnet was, which was trying to pinpoint only the Natanz centrifuge environment in Iran. You could have a version of Stuxnet which would target any location, any PLC, Siemens PLC S7400 boxes. And they wouldn't just try to change the spinning speeds of centrifuges, they could just do random modifications. And you could have, remarkable disasters with our electricity distribution, water distribution, our food, our chemicals. So something like this, it sounds like a movie plot. And the real question then becomes, if somebody would like to do it, who would they be and what would be their motive? I spent quite some time looking at the terrorist activity online, trying to figure out if we should be worrying about real cyber terrorism. And when I say real cyber terrorism, I mean real attacks launched by groups like Al-Qaeda or other Muslim extremist groups or other kinds of extremists like right-wing or neo-Nazis or other groups like that. And during my research, I did find that basically all of these groups are very advanced in using the internet, using it for communication, using it for propaganda, for recruitment. Al-Qaeda runs their own email networks with their own encryption systems, supporting Blowfish and AES and other advanced strong crypto mechanisms. But I didn't find evidence of groups like these using or even planning to use the internet to do real attacks like terrorism-related attacks. I did find some individuals which had some skills and they were trying to teach others, but it really isn't a problem we need to be worrying just yet. When we look at what governments are doing, we have quite a range of activities. At one end, we have spying and espionage. For example, many of these so-called APT attacks are government-sponsored espionage against other countries. And this has been going on for almost a decade. The very first targeted malware cases, like APT cases, that we investigated were in 2005, so 8 years ago or 7 years ago. Then we have governments using malware and Trojans to attack their own citizens. And these are the cases of, for example, police using Trojans to investigate suspects for crime. And in addition of tapping their phones and tapping their internet connection to get access to encrypted communication, they infect their computers with governmental Trojans. And it's a very complicated scenario, especially for security companies, because we cooperate, we work with the police all the time to catch the Russian and Ukrainian cybercrime gangs. At the same time, the very same police are using Trojans themselves. And it becomes a question on, like, what should we do, the antivirus companies? Should we detect these Trojans used by the police, or should we turn the blind eye and let them do it? When we originally started seeing governments using malware against their own citizens, it was mostly in totalitarian states. So you think old Egypt, Syria, Iran, and you aren't really surprised to realize that totalitarian governments use this against their own citizens to find dissidents and revolutionary people. But then when we started to see it in Western countries and democratic nations, and for example, Germany has been very active in doing this. In fact, you can go to the German government website and you'll find recruitment ads where the government are recruiting Trojan and backdoor writers to work for the government, to create governmental Trojans to target the citizens of Germany. And it's a bit surprising that this is really happening. But in many ways, it probably isn't, because today's criminal investigation need new kinds of tools.
In juni schreef Hypponen een column waarin hij zichzelf verontschuldigde voor het feit dat zijn bedrijf, net als andere beveiligingsbedrijven, Stuxnet en Flame niet konden detecteren.
I wrote this column to Wired in May, basically apologizing for our company and for the antivirus industry as a whole, for our failure in defend our customers against Stuxnet, Flame, Duku, and other related malware written by governments of United States and Israel. And I had a meeting maybe 2 weeks later with our customers. Big customers were all gathered to Austria, and I knew that they were going to ask me about this and ask like why did we fail? And I was trying to come up with a way of explaining it to them, and the way I explained it was that I had two pictures. I had a picture of a street robber, a guy with a gun somewhere in South America, stopping cars and stealing the wallets from the people in the car. And I made the point that the cyber equivalent of this guy are the online criminal gangs, like, you know, Zeus and Spy Eye stealing money from online banks, or credit card keylogger stealing credit cards, money-making attacks, who don't really care who you are. Like, everybody and anybody is the target. If you want to steal credit card numbers, it doesn't matter if it's a Dutch credit card number or a German or Italian credit card. You just get the credit card number and you make money, right? And we can defend against this. This is our main focus area. This is where we can protect the end users. But Stuxnet and Flame didn't look like a street robber. Stuxnet and Flame look like something like James Bond. You know, the government-funded attacker with unlimited budget, with the latest and greatest technology, with unlimited resources, with the best possible training. And if James Bond wants to kill you, James Bond will kill you. It doesn't matter if you try to run and hide, he will find you and he will kill you. It doesn't matter if you have a helmet and a bulletproof vest, he will kill you anyway. And we can't really defend you against James Bond. But the good news is that it's unlikely that James Bond wants to kill you. Just like it's unlikely that Stuxnet and Flame would like to infect your system, you know? If you're a local pizza place in Amsterdam, you will not be targeted by Stuxnet and Flame. If you are operator of a nuclear centrifuge in Iran, then you might. And I'm not saying that we are giving up this fight, because we aren't. We are actually right now planning new kinds of technologies which will make it easier for us to defend against nation-state level attacks. But it isn't easy.
As consumers, we use the internet to pay our bills, to shop, to file our taxes, but millions of Americans have been victimized. Their privacy violated, their money and identity stolen, their lives turned upside down. The lesson is clear. This cyber threat is one of the most serious economic and national security challenges we face as a nation.
So out of these attacks, as part of Operation Olympic, the latest discovery was a malware known as Miniflame, which was just found this week. It was announced by Kaspersky as they've been looking into this whole flame operation in great detail together with Sturt Bund, the German CERT. They have been monitoring a command and control server in Germany, physically in Germany, looking at traffic coming and going from there. And while looking at that traffic, they found yet another related malware, which is very similar to Flame, but it's much smaller. It's like a redacted, smaller version of Flame. It's independent, it's a different malware, but it's clearly related to Flame. This operation is still active right now. They were still sending and receiving traffic through that server on Saturday or Sunday. They might still be doing it today. So this attack is ongoing, and it's an information gathering attack, like Flame and Gauss and Duku. So these aren't trying to operate PLCs or automation gear, nothing like that. They just gather information for future attacks. Just like the Stuxnet attack was launched partially based on information gathered with earlier versions of these similar information gathering things. So they are gathering information for some future attack, which could be something like what Stuxnet was. We don't really know what they're up to.